As Val Garay says in this clip, Linda Ronstadt could sing the phone book. I know it's an old saying, it's a cliche, but ain't that the truth when it comes to Linda Ronstadt? We'll also talk about his relationship with Linda, because he was the engineer next to Peter Asher, working on all those songs. Linda Ronstadt had 10 top 10 hits. You're No Good was her only number one, but she had a couple of number twos somewhere out there, from An American Tale and Don't Know Much with Aaron Neville. We talk about Linda Ronstadt on Rock History Music. Enjoy. Working with Linda, I find it interesting that she looks back at some of her songs and or her music and has that opinion on her music, where that she kind of looks at her pop stuff and kind of looked at it that way. And I mean, she's one of the greatest interpreters that ever lived on this earth. I didn't think, and if you would have told me about some of the songs, especially the older songs, redoing those songs as a 15, 16-year-old, not that I knew anything at all back then or even now, I would have said there's no way that's going to work. But somehow you guys as a team, just including her, of course, made it work, just reinventing songs.
Basically sing the phone book and you'd be interested in hearing it. But I'll give you an example. When we were doing Simple Dreams, John David Souther came to the studio with the idea she should cut Blue Bayou and played her the Roy Orbison version. And she learned it from that record. You listen to it now and it's like, it doesn't sound anything like him or his record, but it's just an incredible reading of the song. And she had the ability to do that with anything, whether it was Smokey Robinson doing Ooh Baby Baby or, You're No Good. Every hit she had, That'll Be the Day, It's So Easy, It Hurt So Bad. All these songs that she had huge hits with were all covers. The only original in all of her hit songs was How Do I Make You, the Billy Steinberg song. Otherwise, they were covers.
JT by James Taylor, that was just one of those albums that, all my friends like James Taylor, but I, for whatever reason, I don't know, it took JT for me. Like Russ Kunkel, Honey Don't Leave LA, like that drum, what is that, a Syndrome? What was he playing?
That's just his drum kit, the way I mic'd it.
You're so good at drum sounds, by the way. I know you've heard that a million times, but you're the man.
Well, let me tell you, I'll tell you an interesting scenario. The wife of what's his Starry. Mm-hmm. What's the engineer who worked with Bonnie Raitt?
Ed Cherney.
Ed Cherney. His wife did a book that just came out with all the drum sounds of these most famous engineers. Ain't me, I ain't in it. And they're going to start using it at Blackbird Academy as a teaching book. But it was Nico Bolas, guy who did all the Eagles records. It was Al Schmidt, who never did a drum sound in his life. I mean, the guy was like, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., the kid from Nashville, I can't think of his name, but Nico, I taught Nico. I mean, Nico worked for me for 7 years, and they never called me and asked me if I wanted to be part of it. And I created that drum sound of the 70s, period.
Kelly Deco.
Yeah, Kelly Deco. We just did an interview before came to you. How'd
you get hooked up with him?
A guy that I work with all the time, an arranger producer who I work with all the time. I've always been one of those producers where I've always had a keyboard arranger guy that was part of the team. Before it was Steve Goldstein, who did all the Betty Davis Eyes, Randy Meisner's, all that stuff. And then he passed away. Unfortunately, very young from cancer. And so then I got hooked up with a guy named Nick Tenbrook, who was a Juilliard trained arranger composer. Mainly he was doing jazz at the time and a lot of film and television. And so we started working together on a project that I had way back in the early 90s. and I'm sorry, early 2000. And we've been working together for like 20 years. And he was a producer and did all the early Kelly Deco records back in the 70s and 80s. And he came to me one day and he said, there's this guy that I worked with years ago called Kelly Deco, and he said he's kind of unusual and quirky, but he's really good. And he wants to make a record that sounds like the 70s. And you invented the 70s, so will you do it? And I said, well, let me hear some of the stuff. And he started playing me some of the demos, and I went, yeah, this is interesting. So we set a week aside, went into a small studio in the Valley that I'd actually done a Dramarama record in years ago that I liked. And 5 days, we cut the whole record.
Yeah, the first thing, right from the first track, I was listening to it this morning, I'm going, I'm hearing Meatloaf, I'm hearing David Bowie, and of course there's a song specifically about Bowie's head and our brain.
If people ask me how would you describe it? It's like Meatloaf meets the Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Yeah.
What's matter with David Bowie.
We'll have more from Val Garay coming up the next few days. Remember, if you want to join our mailing list, there's a link at the very top of this video. And as a matter of fact, all our videos where you could basically get access to everything we put out. YouTube will not always let you know. That's a problem with them juggling so many subscriptions and so many videos. So join our mailing list, and twice a week we'll send you links to the brand new videos that we put out. And the link to that is, like I said, right at the top of the description of this and every video we have. Join our Patreon, get early access to our videos, but subscribe to our channel, share our videos, comment on them, and like them as well. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music.